Georgie. Yep, that's me. Well, today we're going to finish up the story of Joseph. That's right, we've been looking at Joseph for a good while, and so today we're going to finish it up. We're going to start in Genesis, well, let me see. Genesis chapter 42. Yeah, and we're going to go a long ways in there. Okay, so Joseph, if you remember, is now second in charge of Egypt. He's really just running everything. And the good years of the famine, or the good years are coming, and they've gone through, and here comes the famine. That's right, 7 years of no food. And so they've been saving everything up, and so now there's no food, and the people start needing food. And so they come and they buy food from Pharaoh, yeah, because they've got all this food stored up. So anyway, Jacob, well, he's Joseph's dad. He's got all his 11 brothers and all their families. And, well, they're running out of food too. And so Jacob sends them to come to Egypt to get some more food. Yeah. And so they pack up their donkeys and they get some silver to give to pay for it. And they come to Egypt. Yeah, that's right, Egypt. They come to Egypt and they come in. And, well, Joseph recognizes them right away. They don't know who he is. So he decides, I'm going to mess with these guys and see if they're still as rotten as they were when I was a kid and they sold me. And so he does all kinds of tests with them. First he calls them spies, and then he kind of makes them kind of get locked up a little bit, and then he has to try to get them to tell them, all about them. And so it's like, well, we got an old dad, and we got a younger brother. And he's like, you got a younger brother? Yeah, well, bring him here, I want to see him. That was my Joseph voice. Anyway, so they say, oh, no, I can't do that. He's little, and if we bring him, my dad said he's just going to die. Blah. Yeah, because he really loves Benjamin. That's the little brother. Because his brother, Joseph, well, he's not with us anymore. They don't really say much. Of course, Joseph knows where he is, because, well, that's him. Yeah. So he says, well, you're going to bring me your brother. Oh, I think I changed that voice again. Anyway, so ultimately they had to leave one of the brothers there locked up, and they had to go get their other little brother, Benjamin, and bring him back to prove that they weren't spies, that they really were who they said they were. Of course, Joseph knew that. But anyway, they took off, and they get where they needed to go, and they stopped to get some food for their donkeys and realized all of our silver that we gave to pay for the food, it's back inside of our bags. And it's like, oh no. So they head home and they tell their dad everything that's going on. And he won't let his little brother go. They just left one of their brothers locked up in jail in Egypt. Well, eventually they ran out of food. But it had been a while since they left. In fact, they said they could have gone, come back, gone again, and come back. That's how long it was. Well, anyway, Jacob, their dad, says, you need to go back to Egypt and get some more food. And they said, well, we can't, because the guy in charge said he wouldn't even let to look at us unless we had our little brother with us. And so eventually they just didn't have any food. And so Jacob, their dad, said, well, take Benjamin with you, but I'm going to die if he doesn't come back. Just, blah, yeah. Anyway, so they said, well, we promise. We'll do everything. He'll come back, or it's all my fault. That's what Simeon said. Yeah, his older brother. Anyway, so they head off, and they get to Egypt, and Joseph sees his little brother and everything, and he actually sneaks away and cries. And comes back in, so nobody knows. Yeah. And he's going to mess with them a little more and see if they care about their little brother. See, he takes his own personal cup and he puts it in his little bitty brother Benjamin's bag. And then they take all the silver that they paid and they put it back in the bag. Yeah. Well, they brought double just because they were afraid they were going to get in trouble. And so all that silver got put back in their bag. And so they take off on the way, and Joseph sends his servant after and says, hey, so one of you took my master's cup. They said, well, we didn't do that. We wouldn't steal that. In fact, we paid double, see? And they opened it up, and there was all their silver. And they said, well, we wouldn't have done that. In fact, whoever did that, well, he can just be a servant of Joseph. Well, when they opened up everybody's bags, the cup was in little Benjamin's bag. And they were like, no, we can't do that. They said, it'll kill my dad if we don't bring him back. So, and so they volunteered to stay in his place. And they went to Joseph, and they said, well, they didn't know it was Joseph. They said, look, you can't keep our little brother. Our dad's going to die if we don't bring him back. Just keep me instead. The other one's like, no, keep me instead. So they're like, keep me instead. Yeah. And then Joseph, he knew he couldn't keep up the secret anymore, so he sent all of his servants out, and then he just started crying. And he started hugging them all, and they were freaking out, going, what in the world's going on? And he said, well, it's me, Joseph. I'm your brother. Remember the one you sold? And they were like terrified. It's like, oh, yeah. Anyway, he said, well, don't worry about it. See, God knew this famine was coming. He sent me ahead to save our family. Yeah, it wasn't your fault. Well, they were still pretty scared. I bet they were shaking in their sandals. Anyway, they said, no, really, God did this so that we would be saved. Now go home and get my dad and bring him back. In fact, bring back all the family and all the stuff. And when the Pharaoh found out that Joseph's brothers were there, he said, yeah, get your dad, get all their stuff. In fact, they don't even have to bring their stuff. We'll just give them all new stuff when they get here. So take these wagons and bring back your dad and his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids. Just bring them all back. And so that's what they did. Jacob, he just couldn't believe it. And so they packed everything up and they came back, and Joseph went out and met them, and they were crying and hugging, and it was beautiful. Yeah. And so they settled in the land of Goshen because there were 5 more years of famine. And yeah. And so that's how the Israelites ended up in Egypt, with Joseph being the second in charge, saved the whole family, yeah. So all that bad stuff that happened, when he was a slave and he learned how to take care of a household, and then he was in a jail and he learned how to take care of jail, all that was preparing him to take care of the land of Egypt and save his family. Yeah, and that family, they became the 12 tribes of Jacob, 12 tribes of Israel. They were the promise that God made to Abraham. Isn't that amazing? Well, that's about the story of Joseph. So thanks for spending the time with us on our video, and we'll see you next time on Bible Stories with Georgie. Who? Georgie. I can't even say my name right. Bible Stories with Georgie. Later.